Hey everybody, here is a list of the divisibility rules that you really need to know because they will help you with long division or any kind of division all of the time. Ready? All right, so the first one's pretty easy. The twos rule. A number is divisible by 2. That means 2 goes into it evenly if the ones digit is an even number. That's 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. So, for example, let's say 542 is divisible by 2 because it ends in a 2. And if I want to do a giant number, 10,258 is divisible by 2 because 8 is an even number. So you always look at the ones digit, it has to be divisible by 2. The 3 rule and the 9 rule are very similar. We'll go through them in order, but it says the sum of the digits is divisible by 2. What that means is you literally add up the digits. So if I had 342, I would say 3 plus 4 plus 2 equals 9. Oops. That's 7 plus 2 is 9. If 3 goes into 9 evenly, 3 will go into 342 evenly. Okay? Here's another example. 1011. You wouldn't think 3 goes into that, but add up the digits. 1 plus 0 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. Does 3 go into 3? Yes, it does. Then 3 will go into that evenly, okay? So they're a little bit tricky. You just got to remember 3 and the 9 rule, you have to add them up. We'll get to the 9 rule in a second, but they're very similar. All right, divisible by 4. That means the last 2 digits have to be divisible by 4. So if I had 1024, I'm going to look at the 24. If 4 goes into 24 evenly, 4 will go into 1024. All right, another example might be 448. If 4 goes into 48 evenly, then 4 will go into 448. The reason it's just the last 2 digits is because 4 goes into 125 times always. So I know it's going to go into all the hundreds. I just have to look at the last 2, okay? All right, number 5 is the easy rule. The number ends in a 0 or a 5, no matter how big the number is. So if I had a number that is 10,255, 5 will go into it because it ends in a 5. If I had a simpler number, as in, let's see, 310, it ends in a 0, so 5 goes into that evenly. All right, so they're not that tough. You just got to kind of memorize them, and a lot of them are common sense, but you just have to think about them. The 2 rule you should already know. The 5 and the 10 rule, I think you guys already know if it ends in a 5 or 0, okay? All right, the 6 rule has to follow both the 2 and the 3 rule. That means it has to be an even number that the sum of the digits is divisible by 3. All right, so I'm going to use 342 again. So 342, it's an even number, so it fits the 2 rule. If I added 3 plus 4 is 7 plus 2 is 9, add them up, and 3 goes into 9, so it fits both the 2 and the 3 rule, okay? Here's another one. If I had 1632, 1632. Again, it ends in an even number, so 2 goes into it, but it has to fit both. So I would add this up. 1 plus 6 is 7, 7 plus 3 is 10, 10 plus 2 is 12. Since 3 goes into 12, 3 would go into that number, so it fit the 2 rule and it fit the 3 rule, okay? So I have to check 2 things on that. And if you think about it, it's easy to remember because 2 times 3 is 6, so if 6 goes into it, it has to fit both of those rules. So if you kind of think back on, most of the rules make a lot of sense, even without memorizing them. All right, the 7 rule is useless. I don't even remember what the 7 rule is, but it's way easier to just divide a number by 7 to see if 7 goes into it, okay? There's not an easy rule for that. Same with the 8. The 8 rule, the last 3 digits have to be divisible by 8. So sometimes it's just easier to divide something by 8 to see if 8 goes into it evenly, okay? So, but an example would be 5, totally forgot what I was going to say. 54 400, okay? Since 8 goes into 400, 8 would go into 5,400, okay? So I look at the last 3 digits. Another example would be 1,032, 032. Since 8 goes into 32, 8 would go into that evenly. All right, so the 8 rules the 7 and the 8 rule are really all that useful. All right, the 9 rule is though. The 9 rule is the exact same as the 3 rule, only when you add them up, they have to be divisible by 9. So if I did the same number I did for 3, 342, when I added them up, 3 plus 4 is 7, plus 2 is 9. If 9 goes into 9, then that whole number is divisible by 9. If I had the number 3636, 3,636, I do 3 plus 6 is 9, plus 3 is 12, this is 18. Since 9 goes into 18, 9 would go into that evenly, okay? Last but not least, the tens one, if it ends in a 0, okay? So 12,310. It ends in a 0, it's divisible by 10. 500 ends in a 0, it's divisible by 10. Okay, so just to recap it really quick, the 2 rule, I think most of you know. If it's an even number, 2 goes into it. The 5 rule, most of you know. The 10 rule, most of you know. Okay, so those are 3 that aren't really new rules. The 7 and 8 rule aren't that useful, so we don't have to worry too much about the 7 and 8 rule. 7 for sure not. 8 isn't all that helpful. So all I'm left with is 3, 4, 6, and 9. Okay? Now, 4, the last 2 digits. That's pretty easy to remember. Okay? Just have to remember that one. 6, remember, if you know the 2 and the 3 rule, 6, well, it's got to be 2 times 3 is 6, so it has to fit both of those rules. 3 and 9 are where you add up the digits. Those are the only 2 numbers you add up the digits for, okay? So you just add all the digits in the number. If 3 goes into that number, then it's divisible by 3. If 9 goes into it, it's divisible by 9, okay? All right, guys, have a great day.